I guess your thoughts on this last game. I know you guys were obviously put in a tough spot with the turnovers deep in your territory, but what did you take away from it?
Well, first off, addressing that way, that's not the way we look at it, tough spot. I mean, we're first responders, and that's just the way you got to be built on defense. Yes, we did have 31 snaps in the red zone, but that's irrelevant. Our job is to defend it, just like a first responder does in a fire truck, or mentality-wise. Obviously, not the same situation, but mentality-wise, you don't ask why, what, how. You just go do it. And quite frankly, we've got to be more effective in the red zone. We forced, I think there were total 6 red zone trips. One of those ended on downs. One of them ended on a field goal. The other 4, we were just not. We didn't get done what we wanted to get done, and that was 4 field goals. Got them in 4th down, and then the shovel pass. It just, I think the big thing is we've got to execute better to force field goals or block a field goal, get them at worst block a field goal, force a field goal in those situations. And that's our job. That's the way we've got to handle it. That's the way our players, I mean, they know that, they understand that. And so that was the biggest thing, is the red zone defense.
And the other thing I was going to say, I know you guys, Pro Football Focus, they had you guys on for 16 missed tackles, which I think is the most you've had for a game this year. Just curious. Right. Obviously, a lot of those fourth quarter.
It doesn't matter. That is a true statement. The fourth quarter, we were not as effective at all in tackling and wrapping up. We were getting there, wrapping up. That's an absolutely true statement. It's been addressed. It's not something we've had to deal with most of the year. It's been addressed. They're aware of it. We will get that corrected. But you're accurate in what you said.
I want to ask you a big picture kind of question. I think you were at Alabama for Nick Saban's first season, right? And I'm just curious, like, do you see any parallels from your experience there to what's going on here with first year program, culture being established?
Absolutely.
What do you remember about
Oh, that? I remember it very well. And a lot of similarities. Hopefully we can produce the same results after those similarities.
What is the toughest part of trying to establish, I guess, a new culture or mentality?
It's not any different than life itself when you change environments. You know, when there's a change, people have to adapt. And so that's coaches, that's players, that's everybody. And so and then you put on top of that completely new offensive systems, new defensive systems, philosophy. So the learning curve, the speed of that learning curve, and then apply that to game day. And the repetition is one thing, repetition in practice. It's another thing to have it full speed in a game. And so that's a big adjustment. The off the field, getting to know each other, the trust issue. It's a two-way street. You know, we've got to trust the players, but they've got to trust us. You know, and then just learning to bond. It's a lot of similarities. I will say this now. The guys that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, the attitude, the resiliency, the will to want to has been phenomenal. And that's hard now when you're talking about going through adversity and things not being, you put that much work in it, and things not being the way you want them to be, and the outcome not being the way you want it to. You know, the easiest thing in the world is to give up. That's in anything. The easiest thing in the world to do is give up. These guys, they're not quitters. They have not given up, and they have a phenomenal attitude.
Anything else for Coach Steele?
Coach Steele, Virginia's offense, I know Brennan Armstrong's had some challenges this year. You know, I saw some games that guys are not hanging on to the catches. Just their offense.
Well, they're going through the same thing. They're going through a culture change. They're going through a new coach. I coach with Tony, you know, and they're going through the same thing. And it's a new offense, new defense, new system. He's a very talented young man. He's had really, really good games in his career. But, you know, the thing about that as a defensive coordinator, when you see a player like him, and then you watch the tape from his total body of work, it's a huge challenge to make sure that it doesn't get right the day you're there. And so he has the capabilities of doing that. In fact, as we know, we're kind of in the new in vogue play in the ACC, or has been for us, with North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and it's showing up the same guys against other teams. So it's what people are doing now is they've added that 12th man running game in with the quarterback, and then I just got through, just got through literally watching Louisville, Duke. In the red zone, and the quarterback's alive, and quarterbacks come alive in the red zone. Some teams don't run the quarterback. In this league, it's pretty prevalent across the board in terms of the quarterback coming alive, and he just scrambled in for the last play I watched before I came in here, 11-yard quarterback draw for a touchdown in the red zone when they're matched up in match coverage. So he's got the feet to make you pay, and he's got a really, really quick release, left-handed, comes out quick, and he's very accurate.
Coach Steele, James Williams obviously is a tremendous talent, but there are times when it looks like he's trying to hit somebody really hard, maybe instead of wrapping up. I could be totally wrong in my assessment, but do you at all have to talk to him about that, in terms of exactly wrapping up?
We coach tackling the same dog level,
Okay.
and tackling requires wrap up, and we've been really good at that. We've really improved that, but we did regress a little bit this past week, particularly late in the game. And I think one of the biggest things we've got to, in this process that he was talking about, and to change, is that we've got to learn, as Coach said, and these are Coach's words, to learn how to win. And part of that too is when things are not going just right, that's when you really have to rely on your techniques and your fundamentals. And I know, not to make a comparison, I don't want to get into that. I heard the Tom Brady issue, so I'm not getting into that. But I've got a very, very close friend that's a commander in Navy SEALs, and when he always talks about their training, and then when they get into a situation, is you go back to your training when things get like that. You have to go back to your training. You can't let things go loose.
Coach, you've been a part of a lot of winning programs throughout your time as a coach. How is that, or at least through your experience, how is that response to adversity and that winning culture built?
It's just building confidence. It's a process. It's no different than, I'm a big analogy guy. I remember when my son was learning how to hit a baseball, frustration, and all of a sudden one day he got confidence and it all changed. It's nothing. It's just like anything else we do. It's confidence.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
On those drives where there were 4th down conversions by Duke, can you kind of go through exactly what went wrong on those?
Well, I will the best I can, because this is not the NFL, so I don't get into, if I get too deep into that, then point fingers at players. What went wrong is I got to make a better call. I got to coach better. That's what went wrong. Okay. But on the one drive, there was one drive in the game, substantial. And in that drive, there were 3 third downs and 2 fourth downs. The 4th down, we just got to be tighter match coverage in one of the 4th downs. And then the other one, we were in the red zone, low red zone. It was 4th down. They ran the shovel pass. We were in a max blitz. And all we needed to do was sit on the line of scrimmage once we felt the running back flare, because he was going to be peeled. Just sit on the line of scrimmage and let things come, rather than, because you run upfield, you create different level seams. Now, that was pretty technical without being too technical.
Coach, with your experience, when teams are going through struggles with results on game days, what's something that you as a coach say to your team, or you talked about building confidence, what's kind of your approach to this?
Well, I think anything, when you're around calm people, when the adverse things are going on, that's when you always go back to the best way to teach. And it's calm and it's instructive. It's not yelling, screaming, ranting, raving. And so when they see confidence, when they feel confidence, when they feel calmness, then that starts to integrate into them, if it will.